What are some of the biggest changes students face when they start college?
I think for most students, one of the biggest changes is how much responsibility they have to take for themselves, and keeping track of their assignments and managing their own calendar and remembering when to wash their clothes and making their own hygiene schedule. A lot of students got a lot of support from families at home with those things, maybe more support than families even realize they're providing with those things. And so when students get to campus and it's suddenly all on them, that can be a big shock for a lot of students. And that tends to be a common growth area for many students.
What tips do you have for families about how best to support their student?
I think that families could really support their students with developing more independence at home. I know a lot of families are scared to give academic independence because they don't want their students to get bad grades in high school that might interfere with their ability to get into college. But family can start with responsibilities at home, so assigning the student chores and giving them a deadline by which it has to happen, and helping the student figure out a system to make sure that they complete their chores on time, so that the parents are becoming less and less involved in that process of the student keeping up with things. So it might be, for instance, the student starting to take responsibility for their own laundry, which is something they'll have to do in college. Keeping their own calendar, so a lot of families are managing students' calendars for them, and that's something they have to do on their own in college. So encouraging the student to be the person to put something on their calendar to remind them of activities or assignments that they have coming up. So any little things that families can start to turn over the responsibility more to the student than to the family. All of those things will add up and make the transition to college a little bit less daunting for students and families alike.
What advice do you have for parents about how the college support system differs from high school?
When I do information sessions with parents, we talk about how the IEP doesn't just get copied over to university. It's a different process. There's a different standard that needs to be met at the university level. So some of the accommodations that students receive in high school, they will not be receiving in college. And there's also different rules about confidentiality. Obviously, the student is now an adult, and so the information belongs to the student and not to the parents. So some programs like mine do have students sign a release where they can speak with parents, but even when that's the case, we are prioritizing the students' preferences about how much information or what information is shared with the parents. So I think that's a pretty big transition for the parents. I like to talk with parents about their own developmental tasks for college. So the student has a lot of developmental tasks to be facing, but so do parents. So parents have to learn to let go of the reins a little bit. They have to learn to let the student take the lead and to trust autism support programs that they have their students enroll in, to trust the other support people that are available to the student, and to start to turn their attention to what do they need to do differently as a parent at this stage in their student's life. So they may have had to be the primary advocate all along, but now with things, the way things work at university, they can't be the primary advocate. And of course, the long-term goal is for the student to be the primary advocate for themselves. And so the parent's job is to keep moving further and further back into the shadows and letting the students take the lead, and relying on university support systems to help the students get to that place.
Big thanks to Sharon Thompson and Eastern University. Please subscribe to Inclusive Academia.